military-industrial complex. That is sad. I think he was cut out of the loop because he realized it had gotten so out of control. And like you said, these black budgets. There is a Navy SEAL who has spoken to us off air because he wants to remain anonymous, that served in Vietnam War.
Right.
In 1969, he finished and started doing black ops projects. He actually was in charge of bringing a shipment of cocaine from Peru. And this was funded by our government to fund black projects.
Correct. I know many people like this. What you're saying is absolutely true. I had a senior executive with Science Applications International Corporation, SAIC, and a former member of Congress who was very close to the Bush family, and incredibly close, who met with me at the Congressman's apartment in Crystal City a few years ago, and they told me that there was an army of 8,000 men that did nothing but move illegal drugs around the world to create a cash flow that's untraceable. And by the way, it's not that I'm in favor of drug use at all. I've never used drugs. But the reason they're illegal and criminalized is because it's so lucrative to these elements. And that is not a conspiracy theory. And, of course, if you start touching that, now the scary thing they told me is that there had been 2,000 of the 8,000 people who were in that operation who had been killed for minor security breaches. And that's why that Navy SEAL didn't want to talk to you about it on the record. 2,000. And this is a former member of Congress, very close consigliere to Papa Bush, Bush Sr., and a senior executive with Science Applications International Corporation, SAIC, which is one of the crown jewels of covert contracting for the U.S. military-industrial complex. And, you know, this is a meeting with me with these two senior guys mano a mano. So this is the kind of thing that we're dealing with. It is a very disturbing story. And so the public has to understand that you're not going to take that on directly. You have to, you know, it's like if you go to the National Reconnaissance Office, which runs all the super secret spy satellites called the NRO, you go to their headquarters, over the door it says, "We own the night." To which I say, we need to own the light and disclosure and just bring the truth out, not try to fight them. Just bring out the information, make the contact directly. Don't have to go. I mean, don't ask John Kerry, the Secretary of State, to give you permission. He doesn't know anything about this. So what you need to do is let's take Thomas Jefferson seriously. Let's it be the power of the people and to the people. And this is, we create our own effort of and for the people. And I think that is the impulse of freedom that we have to re-embrace and, you know, kind of get out of off our couches and do this. And so I think to the extent that the public understands what's at stake and begin to actually do something constructive, we'll see change. But we can't be passive. And we can't look to other people to do it for us. I think one of the big mistakes people have gotten into, and this is where I differ with some other people who have been involved with disclosure, is that they think that the president will do it at some point or the Congress will do it. So, well, guess what? I've been doing briefings at the level of presidential intelligence since 1992 and 1993, so for 20 years. And from where I sit, I think that we're going to make a very big mistake if we look around us and think Bill Gates is going to fund the energy effort, or the president's going to disclose the secrets, or the State Department or the UN is going to make contact. I think we have to do it. And that's my message to people, and actually it's always been my message. The whole disclosure project was only done, and I'll say this quite frankly, after I had briefed the senior people at the level of the UN and the President and the Ministry of Defense in the UK and the Congress, and asked them to do this on our behalf because it was the right thing to do. None of them had the courage to do it. So that's when we then said, okay, the people we've identified who have this information and documents and material will lead that charge ourselves. And you know, it's been a very, you know, daunting thing to take on, frankly, personally, and frankly, a very expensive thing for me to take on personally, because it's not like I was, you know, a clerk at Walmart. I left a full-time position as chairman of emergency medicine to do this. But I think the public, when they realize that the folks that you would normally turn to that you think are controlling this aren't, and one of the really spooky moments I had in my whole career doing this. I'm sitting with the sitting CIA director, and I'm giving him all this information. And at the end of the meeting, I give him this white paper, sort of a set of executive orders that we're recommending, just like my letter to the president, Obama. But this was years before, during Clinton's term as president. And I'm saying, look, we really need you to help with this effort to disclose this. And he looked me square in the eye. He said, Dr. Greer, how do we disclose that which we don't have no access? Yeah. And if we don't have access to it, how do we do it? So that was the big issue.
I think is we're almost running out of time. But the big issue, we're coming up to the top of the hour, is maybe 9/11 was the biggest bank heist in history. $2 trillion lost. Rumsfeld comes out on September 10th, says they don't know where the money went. The people that were in charge of that $2 trillion, well, the next day on September 11th, it gets wiped out at the Pentagon by a Moab missile, by an airplane. We don't know, but now all the evidence is gone. But we heard recently that you were just recently proposed some images from Soho, the NASA images from Soho. Mr. Robert Evans has been doing a lot of research. Have you seen those images of the Soho? What are these crafts next to the sun, in your opinion?
I really don't know, because I'd have to know the provenance of it. What I know is that there certainly have been massive craft that have been imaged in our solar system, and there's a Defense Intelligence Agency source who told me about a very large, and also a Lockheed Martin executive, a very large ET craft that's out by Saturn, around near the rings of Saturn, or over in that area, that measured miles and miles across. One of my military advisors was at NORAD, North American Air Defense Command, and he was in a compartmented area on Console 50 where they tracked in deep space network some of these objects out in our solar system. And he said one of them, this was one craft, was 26 miles across in diameter. So, and this is why I laugh at all the science fiction movies and sort of the fear-mongering that goes on in the UFO subculture. I'm going, oh yeah, you got the ability to go interstellar, and you got a 26-mile across diameter craft out there, and if they were hostile, we're like somehow we've defeated them. How? It just doesn't make any sense if you know the science behind it. But as far as these things, that I have seen them, but because I don't know the provenance of them, and it's just sort of objects there, I don't really know what those are. And so, I have to say, we don't know. There's enough other evidence that I could hang my hat on, and sources, and that's what we try to stay with.
Dr. Greer, we are literally coming down at the end of the show. I just want to thank you for leading such a disclosure movement. And briefly, in less than a minute before we end the show, if you can give one final message to all the listeners and viewers of Third Phase of Moon, people who will be seeing this around the globe, other than what we've been talking about, what would you have to say to them?
I would say that people have to understand that this information is really out there, and what we've done over the last 20 years is to collect the best evidence, the best images, and the best perspectives on this, and put it together, and that's what's at SeriousDisclosure.com. And there's a whole button you can hit under evidence and just see all this information. Under the Energy Project, all these papers and research. So the first step is for people to become educated on the subject and to master that. Then to share it with other people, and then step into action, where they're actually going out there and making contact.
Sorry, Dr. Greer, we have come to the end of hour one. Thank you so much. Everybody stay tuned. Third Phase of Moon Radio will continue, right?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen Greer.